Bitcoin essentially is the only asset that's not in a bubble, and Bitcoin is the pin that's going to puncture the global debt bubble.
The Bitcoin millionaire and the Keiser Report host, Max Keiser, predicts that central banks and fiat money are going to die soon. Value of paper money is nothing, and war is an inevitable outcome of fiat. According to Keiser, Bitcoin is the pin that is going to puncture the global asset bubble, and in no time, governments will embrace Bitcoin. Hey guys, and welcome to Investing Few. In today's video, I will break down what Max Keiser thinks about the possible future of Bitcoin and why central banks and fiat currency will exist no more in future. If you want to know more, stay till the end of this video because at the end, I will share what Keiser predicts about Bitcoin's price. But before we start, make sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. The inevitable end of fiat is near. Max Keiser, who is one of the most experienced and popular crypto analysts, made some shocking revelations in an interview with Alex Jones. According to Max, the people of the world are taking the power back, and they want a system separate from government interference. The only expected outcome of fiat is war, and the value of paper money will eventually become nothing. Let's see what Max Keiser had to say about this.
Well, Alex, it's always about money printing, and since really decades now, going all the way back to the 1970s, all of these countries have come to rely on money printing as a way to solve all their problems. And what happens is the currencies are debased. And then when the currencies are debased, there's no way to create any kind of economic friction that you can work to increase your wealth, and that leads to war. In other words, war is the inevitable outcome of printing fiat money, because fiat money just debases everybody's currency until the point where you end up going to war. And this has been the case throughout history. And I think right now we're on a war footing with the US, China, and other countries around the world. They're getting ready to go to war, which is unfortunate. It's totally avoidable. But it's the direct result of just printing money to death so that the value of the paper money is nothing. And people start to panic and they start to run out of supplies. I mean, the Suez Canal incident shows you how fragile the global supply chains are. Apparently, we're heading for another toilet paper shortage. It's one of the outcomes. All of the paper pulp from Brazil is now choked at that point in the Suez. But there are many, many choke points in the global supply chain right now. And they're all being kind of kept afloat, if you will, using artificial means, artificial stimulus, money printing, accounting tricks. But that's all falling apart now. And because you can only use the defibrillator of fiat money so many times before you have to recognize that the patient is in fact dead.
Bitcoin is only asset not in a bubble. Talking about Bitcoin, Max Keiser admitted that Bitcoin is the only asset compared to gold or fiat that is not in a bubble, and it has minimum risk associated with it.
Bitcoin essentially is the only asset that's not in a bubble, and Bitcoin is the pin that's going to puncture the global debt bubble. And it's going to reveal all of the underlying fragility.
And you said that to me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago. They're now literally saying Bitcoin's going to cause a global depression. No, you're saying it's going to show the fraud and that it'll be the detonator. But then won't they try to blame it?
Yeah, they will. And but there's nothing they can do about it. They can pass any law they want to, but there's no way to enforce it. They can launch central bank digital currencies, but they don't compete with Bitcoin because they're centralized and Bitcoin is decentralized. I made the comparison yesterday to the P2P file swapping in the music industry. The music industry would have loved to shut it down, but they couldn't. What happened in the end is that the music industry had to change. Well, now we have subscriber and streaming services, but the old music industry before Napster died. Similar, the current central banking model and fiat money model, because of Bitcoin, it will go the same way as the music industry did when a P2P encrypted network was introduced. They're going to die off. They're just not going to be around in 10 years' time. Those central banks are going to be mere shadows of their former selves.
Max Keiser admitted that all investments made in fiat money are a risk, and governments will embrace Bitcoin open-heartedly.
Well, yeah, of course. You know, the global capital markets are invested in various assets around the world. But remember, all of those investments are made in fiat money. And so they're all at risk. More interestingly, Goldman Sachs is introducing a Bitcoin exchange-traded fund. So is Fidelity and other major heavyweights on Wall Street. And it tells you how early we are with Bitcoin, because the heavyweights on Wall Street have yet to really jump into this market. So,
well, in fact, a couple of years ago, that JP Morgan and Chase and others, they were attacking Bitcoin. But as you said, now they're getting into it. Is that a capitulation, or what's happening?
Yeah, that's a capitulation. That's what a capitulation looks like. And as I've been saying, Alex, the real story here is not that governments are going to try to ban it. It's going to be that governments are going to start to wholeheartedly embrace it as you get into what I call the global hash war, or the hash race, because a few countries right now are breaking away from US dollar global hegemony. They're buying, they're mining, they're hoarding Bitcoin, and so their currencies potentially could become the strongest currencies in the world.
Keiser says that in no time, governments will start mining Bitcoin when they see the potential of this cryptocurrency, and this will lead to an explosion in Bitcoin price.
They're buying Bitcoin and they're mining Bitcoin. Like Venezuela, for example, they try to do a competing currency, a cryptocurrency, but they realized after a couple of years that really the Bitcoin is the best game in town. So now they're going into Bitcoin. Same thing with Iran. Iran has got 2 or 3% of the global Bitcoin network. You know, they potentially, if the situation were to persist as it is right now, within 5 years, Iran would have the strongest currency in the world. So I don't think the US or Europe or Asia is going to let that happen. They're going to jump in with both feet and say, okay, we're going to start mining Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin. And that makes the price go up to 500,000 to $1 million.
Well, sure.
Market cap of Bitcoin in future. At the end, Max Keiser shared his thoughts about the future of Bitcoin and how central banks will soon get out of business.
The state or the crown issues the money. It's been speculated by people like Friedrich Hayek that you could have private money that was separate from the state, but he didn't see how it could happen unless it was a quirk, almost an accidental occurrence. And exactly this is what happened in 2009. It's almost a quirky little occurrence that Bitcoin was released into the internet. And now we do have separation of state and money. And that's why the state is becoming quite nervous, because if all the capital ends up moving into Bitcoin like it is, and the market capitalization goes from 1 trillion to 100 trillion to 400 trillion, that means that this nation state, as we know it, is going to go out of business. The central banks are going to go out of business. And we're entering into a new era, kind of a Renaissance 2.0.
And is that why?
So there you have it, Max Keiser's prediction about possible future of Bitcoin. And with that, we come to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more such engaging content. Also, tell us in the comments, what do you think about Max Keiser's predictions, and will governments ever embrace Bitcoin? Thanks for watching.